Sit with your head, neck, and trunk aligned. Find that from all the activities, all the space around you. Feel the space above your eyes, inside. Yeah. Oh, touch the breath. Let your breath settle. With your mind. Describe 3 circles of light around you. See them in the directions. So that your mind feels within. Just watch your breath. Notice how naturally smooths out. Becomes more subtle. And just allow that natural transition to continue. As your mind, breath settle, so also let your body settle. Yeah, inside the top of your head, feel inside. Any points of tension in the body, gently remove. Feel the muscles just. Feel around your eyes and eyebrows. Down into your cheeks, corners of your mouth. Release your jaw. Muscles in your neck. Your throats. Feel out your shoulder for your knees. Through your upper arm. Your forearm. Into your hand.
Sorry to interrupt. The sound is not coming through very good. Just chopped up and a little difficult to understand.
play with technical details. Yeah, I do.
Doesn't seem to be any change.
Try to switch it up.
While we work, technical side, maintaining the awareness of your breath, maintaining your inward voice. How's it sounding now?
No, it's still pretty much the same. Very quiet and distant, and sometimes muffled. Lori was coming through clear.
Well, I can always raise my voice.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Okay. Reestablish your breath awareness. Relax your fingertips. Feel back into your fingers. Let your fingers go as if they could just float away. Feel back inside your hands. And let your hands go. Back inside your forearms. Release your forearms. Your upper arms. And your shoulders. From your throat center, feel down into your chest. Relax your upper chest and upper back. Feel into the muscles between your ribs. And let your rib cage relax. Feel into the center of your chest. Relax the center of your chest. Exhaling it in. Breathe. Breathe. Relax the center of your chest. Feel down into your abdomen. Relax your stomach muscles. Your navel center. Feel down into your hip joints. Your gluteal muscles. Relax your thighs. Feel down into your calves and lower legs. Your feet. Your toe. Feel all your toes. Feel the whole body. Breathe. The whole body at peace. Now, feel the current of breath and prana between your navel and your nostril. As you observe the mind and breath moving as one, just listen for your mantra, or your favorite divine name, or Soham. Feel that gentle song draw your mind more and more still. Feel that flow along the bridge of your nose, between the center between the eyebrows, and nasagra, where the nose bridge meets the upper lip. And sound resonating in that space. Through the left-hand channel in the left nostril. Lunar Swara. Now, feel that flow through the right-hand channel in the right nostril. Solar Swara. Between two. Sushumna Swara. Sushumna flow. Become subtle vocal Just follow the presence of the mantra. Where is the Shakti calling you? To a new chamber along the spine, or to a particular chakra. The mantra presence need. Surface of your calm mind. Let it merge in the flow of breath from the toe. So that your whole mind becomes full of that sound. Keeping this awareness. Let your mind turn gently outwards. The palms come to your face. And your eyes gently open. Observing the outward movement of your mind. Your heart. Filling your palms with fragrant blossoms of gratitude. Offered for the well-being of all creatures. And for the Guru Force, finding us heart to heart, coming to us at every moment, with every breath. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I hope the rest of the meditation was satisfactory for those online.
It got better, and then the last portion of it, it got quiet again. But it did get much, much better. What happened? Did you have the microphone closer that time?
We're not sure. We're not using the microphone.
We did a sound check initially, and we got the thumbs up. So I don't know what happened. Mystery.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. So our subject this evening is deepening sadhana with use of the Gayatri mantra. Originally, I was asked to give a talk on a particular kind of practice with Gayatri, which we will get to. But it's a big subject, and it's one that many people have questions about. So it seemed to me it would be a good idea to be a little broader. Thank you. Our system of meditation begins from two practices, from breath awareness in precisely the same method as Buddhist practices of meditation. There is no difference. The philosophers like to argue about the explanation, but the practices themselves between yoga and Buddhism are strikingly non-different. And actually the same can be said of Christianity. The practice of the early Christian yogis was no different from what we do. And you can read about it in St. Clement of Alexandria, Evagrius Pontus, and a number of other of the early apostolic fathers. The church, which is a different religion than Christianity, has forgotten all of this. And back in a few years ago, when Swami Veda was doing a presentation at Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, Cardinal Ratzinger, later Pope Benedict XVI, made a comment in the papers that meditation is nothing but mental masturbation. And so Swamiji's response to that was, well, you should try it. The church has, in many places, forgotten about this tradition. There are some places where it's still alive. There's a wonderful, if you ever do go to Italy and you're in the vicinity of Florence, where we have a big center, lots of friends in Florence, it's a great place to visit. And about 2 hours outside of Florence, there is a place called La Verna, which was the meditation retreat of St. Francis of Assisi. Beautiful, beautiful place. And you can feel there the silence. 2 hours in another direction, there is a monastery, Benedictine monastery, at a place called Camaldoli. And the Camaldolese Benedictines in the 1960s sent two priests, Father Bede Griffiths and André Lejeune, to India. They became swamis, and they were sort of the first big Catholic priests who came to India with no agenda about conversions or any of that stuff. Their mission was simply to live the two traditions side by side, which they did. They founded an ashram in South India called Shantivanam, which still exists today, and is both a yoga ashram and a Benedictine monastery. And in the bookstore in the monastery at Camaldoli, thanks to our friend, Brother Axel Bayer, a yoga teacher who was sent by the abbot to our teacher training program to get trained, you can find all the Pope stuff. And then over here, you can find all the Swami Veda stuff, all the Swami Rama books, meditation cushions, incense, all that. So there are pockets of Christianity that maintain those practices. So the practices are very much a transcultural phenomenon. And in our tradition, they begin with breath awareness and mantra as a way to focus the mind. We know from the neuropsychological research on meditation that concentration-focused meditations tend to take you deeper, faster. That's why this was chosen as our primary method. Lots of people like to think that there's a big difference between mantra meditation and vipassana, and once again, they get into big arguments over the explanations of this. They are not different. They are different facets of the same experience of meditation. In Swami Veda's estimation, as a master of dhyana yoga. So mantra is the way that we help our minds to focus and concentrate. And for that purpose, people are given a personal mantra, which is designed to be with you at all times for all purposes. And that does gradually lead your mind deeper and deeper over the span of your lifetime. And it creates a connection with the Guru force that is always present. Whether you pay attention to it or not, it's doing its work. And you can run away. Believe me, I'm experienced. I've done this several times in my life. It will bring you back sooner or later. You can trust that. Really can trust that. Maybe you won't even come back in this lifetime. No? Sooner or later, the Guru is going to reel you in at the right moment when you're ready. So that personal mantra is a really important and precious practice. We supplement that sometimes with special mantra practices that are designed to supplement your ordinary mantra practice with certain particular energies. And there are a range of mantras that are used for that purpose. The most important of them are two, both mantras from the Veda. Of course, we have the Gayatri mantra that we're discussing tonight, and then there is also this mantra called Mahamrityunjaya, the great victory over death mantra. Both of those are special mantras that people can use without an initiation to good effect. And so we often recommend that as a way to deepen your practice. So what is the Gayatri in that regard? you have in your handouts for this evening a sheet that has some translations of the Gayatri mantra when Swami Veda did his weekend workshop on it, which is well worth listening to. He spent 3 days going through that mantra word by word. It took him 3 days to do all the words in the mantra. And he started out by saying there are 967 billion translations of this mantra. It is often thought of as being the entire Veda in one sentence. So it has a certain particular power to it. My friend Pandit Debral in Regina, Saskatchewan says Gayatri mantra is the drill. The thing that drills down into your mind, and loosens up sanskaras to bring to the surface for you to deal with. So it helps to facilitate the process of emotional purification and karmic cleansing that is the most important part of our sadhana in terms of making our mind clear and pleasant and stable, and in doing so, makes it capable of the deeper states of meditation. So it's a lovely practice that way, but it has lots of other ways that it can be utilized. For example, when couples are expecting a child, we will sometimes suggest that they sit together and practice the Gayatri mantra for a certain amount of time each day. Swami Veda's parents were sleeping one night, years before he was born, and they each had a dream. In this dream, an orange-robed figure came to them in the dream and said, "It's time for you to start some Gayatri practice." So they woke up the next morning and they told each other about their dreams, and they were stunned that they had exactly the same dream. So they figured, well, this must be more than a dream. Let's do it. So they sat down every day, and for several hours, they did practice of the Gayatri mantra for 8 years before Swami Veda was conceived. And he attributes the brilliance of his mind to that practice on the part of his parents. So it's something that helps to give a child that is on the way a brighter mind and a more spiritually oriented mind. So that's one way of using it. With our ordinary sadhana, a special practice of Gayatri can help to speed up the process of emotional purification, which in one sense is kind of a good thing. It happens too fast, it can be really uncomfortable. So it's important to be careful about that. And when people ask me about doing a Gayatri practice, I usually tell them, well, okay, to start, sit down and do 1 mala a day and just see how that feels. And if it feels okay, take another step, add some more practice to that until you find your comfortable capacity. In our tradition, there actually is a formal practice of this sort called prayashchitta. The word in Sanskrit means stepping ahead. In other words, kind of getting a head start, facilitating the process of sadhana. And the first level of practice with the Gayatri mantra there is usually to complete 150,000 repetitions of the mantra. That's 1,500 malas in a certain period of time, which depends on you. So the way we usually address this to people is you sit down, figure out how long it takes you to do 1 mala. Then once you know that, decide how much time you want to take each day to do the practice. Divide that by the time it takes you to do 1 mala, and that will give you your goal in terms of a number of malas to complete each day. And we always tell people, stay within your comfortable capacity, because it's very important for the good results of the mantra that you do that number each day. And if you fall behind, that you make it up the next day. Probably if you follow that way of doing it, as you go into the practice, your mind becomes more efficient and more accustomed to the mantra. It becomes subtler. It begins to go faster. And most of the time, people finish ahead of schedule. That's fine. no problem. But you don't want to finish behind stage. So it's important to be careful. And also to just watch and see what happens as you do the practice. Sometimes when people start doing Gayatri sadhana, for example, they start to feel kind of anxious or depressed. They begin to have some emotions. Now, like I said, that's kind of a good thing and kind of an uncomfortable thing. It means that those sanskaras are being stimulated and you're going to have some stuff to deal with. So it's a matter of how well you're able to do that. If it gets to be too disruptive to your daily life, then reduce the intensity. Just let it simmer down a little bit. In Hungary, a few years ago, we had one guy who was way overambitious. He did 1 million repetitions of that mantra. That is 15,000 mantras in a year. He gave himself seizure disorder. He gave himself epilepsy. We had to tell him to stop. You can't do that anymore. We had to forbid him from doing the practice because it was really hurting him. This is not to hurt you. It may bring up some things to deal with, yes. And if you can manage that and work the things through, that's good. That's very useful. And at the end, you will feel a sense of peacefulness and a sense of being settled and an ability probably to meditate at a little deeper level. So at some point, think about doing an experiment with it. Be gentle at first. Be kind to yourself, as kind as you would to somebody else. But as Swami Veda would say, also be ambitious. It helps to light a fire under your sadhana. So the mantra is before you. You have it here on the sheet. And let's just go through and pronounce it so make sure you're pronouncing it correctly. In mantra sadhana, the correct pronunciation of mantras actually is important. And as kind and sweet as he was as a Swami, he was a real stickler about pronunciation. I can tell you, I was a Sanskrit student. I can tell you this with some personal experience. So let's repeat the mantra together. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Very nice. You even got the aspiration on the consonants that are aspirated, which we're usually not used to doing in English. So that was lovely. So let's do the whole mantra together. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Good. When it's recited in a Vedic context, it also has certain melody to it. Vedic hymns were always recited according to a melodic scheme where the tone either stayed the same, went up or down. And those are actually marked in the text. That's one way you can tell when you're looking at a Vedic text because it has all these little lines in it. So for the Gayatri mantra, it would be Om Bhur Bhuvah Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuvah Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Om bhur bhuva swa tat savitur varenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. One more time. Om bhur bhuva swa tat savitur varenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Now we could go into the definition of all the words. And as Swami Veda did a few years ago, that takes an entire weekend. So we don't really have time. And mantras are never about the meaning of the words. The meaning is helpful. It provides a sort of prayerful concentration and it adds something to the experience, yes. But the central thing is the actual sound vibration itself. Initially, we experience that sound as spoken syllables. Eventually, and there are lots of exercises you can do to gradually take the voice out of it. So first we say it in that way, then perhaps we whisper it, then perhaps we just move the parts of our mouth and repeat it mentally. Then we go entirely into the mind and do the repetition. And then as the meditation goes deeper and it becomes more subtle, you start to lose the syllable, but you keep the feeling of the mantra. Lots of people get anxious when this happens. Start thinking, I must be cheating. This happened to me. I had a terrible time. We're just trying to get it over with. It's the mantra going subtle. So then you follow the feeling. Eventually the feeling leads you to just a vibration. The presence of the mantra is still there. Follow that presence. Subtler yet becomes just a pulsation. Eventually resolves into very, very deep levels of meditation. So the mantra leads you deeper. You follow that depth in the process of refining your japa further and further. And again, there's a whole science of that refinement that we don't have time to go into. It's described in the Tantra tradition. Now, as a way of illustrating how subtle that japa becomes, Swami Rama, in several lectures, pulled out his malabi and said, you know how I do Gayatri mantras? Because his mind operated at a minimum 512 times faster than yours. 2 to the 9th power faster. So in the time that you can say the Gayatri once, you would have repeated 5 malas. That's a pretty fast line. And that's what the refinement of japa does. Speeds up the focus, the functioning of your mind, and deepens your focus and concentration to the point where things can begin to mature in your personality that have always been there. You know, all these great yogic powers they talk about, clairvoyance, clairaudience, the ability to disappear, all that stuff. That's there in your mind now. It can actually be measured. There's a scientist in California, Dean Radin, who wrote a book about this in 2013. It's called Supernormal. He took all of the research that's ever been done about clairvoyance, clairaudience, and he lumped it all into what in research, in psychology, we call a meta-analysis, where you take thousands of studies, group them together so that you have a very large number of subjects. If the number of subjects is that big, any result that you get cannot be random. And so he discovered that all the siddhis of yoga were measurable in ordinary people. Very low levels, but they were there. And he could see them in the results of the search. Plus, he was also able to demonstrate that they become more noticeable the more experience in meditation that a person has. So these so-called siddhis, these so-called miraculous powers of yoga, are normal human potentials. They exist in all of you. And eventually, in the process of your sadhana, over the course of some lifetimes, they will gradually all mature and manifest themselves. Some of you may experience some of this stuff already. Have you ever had a thought in your mind of a friend and suddenly they call on the phone? Yeah, lots of people do. From experience of clairvoyance. Small one, but a definite one. So there are little miracles that happen in your life all the time. We just don't see them. They're not very big. But this is good news. It pays to invest in your practice because that's how these abilities gradually manifest themselves and how your mind is gradually made clear and pleasant and subtle. Now, part of what also happens as a part of this process of human maturity is that these qualities of personality that we refer to as Brahma Viharas, these are mentioned in Sutra 33, the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras. Friendliness, Maitri, Karuna, compassion, Mudita, joy-mindedness, and Upeksha, non-reactivity. Those are the things that really mature strongly in your personality as you progress. Those things are the real symptoms of progress in meditation. People would ask Swami Veda, is my meditation doing any good? His question to them was always, are your relationships steady? Or if he was in a joking mood, he'd say, ask your mother-in-law. Ask an enemy. That's actually pretty interesting practice. You ought to try it sometime. Once we had a group of teacher training students. I can't remember, this was in Italy or Hungary, one of the two. And we were coming up to our final exam. And people were daring me to give them a challenging question for the written exam or for their final practices. And so, as a professor, I'm kind of famous for writing tests that are too hard. So I thought, okay. I said, think of somebody who's an enemy. And I want you to go and talk to that person. And I want you to say to them, my spiritual guide told me that your enemy is somebody who has important information about you that you're not willing to hear. And I want to just ask you, I've been doing meditation for so many years. Have you seen any changes in me? And I thought, nobody's going to do this. Too hard. You know what? They all did it. Every single person did it. And the minute they came back to talk about it in the group at the end, we're all grinning. They had gotten unexpected stuff from this. And even though this person was somebody that they had some conflict with, they actually kind of formed a relationship with that person and got some good information, even though it didn't always resolve the conflict. So that'd be something that would actually be very helpful to Americans at this point in our history. Okay. I had this experience with my little brother. My little brother is an off the charts, mega crazy right winger. Just, oh, not even a conventional conservative. His son was kind of going that direction, so I sent him some books of Edmund Burke, the great philosophical conservative. And I said, look, if you're going to be conservative, don't be a stupid conservative. Know what you're thinking about. And my brothers and sisters would get into arguments with my brother, especially when Trump came along. And these never went well. So finally, they all decided we have to have a rule in our family. We never talk about politics. Fine. But what I discovered was when I talked to my brother and I got curious about how he happened to come to have the beliefs that he had, and I asked him that question, he gave me quite an interesting explanation. Turns out that in the family we grew up in and the family his wife grew up in, they were both these sort of political outliers in the family. So they actually found each other over politics. It was the bond in their marriage. So that really taught me something important about my brother. And it also created a way for us to have a relationship that wasn't about what either of us believed, because we knew we believed very differently. And to this day, I have a pretty good connection with my brother. He used to be the drive time DJ in Bismarck, North Dakota in the morning. He's kind of a goofy guy. And these days, he's actually, once he's retired now, he's recording audiobooks and he's trying to get me to do the same thing. So we can have a conversation. When I call him for his birthday, we talk for an hour. Sometimes we even talk about politics. But when we do that, we have a rule that we have to make a decision to do it. Okay, are we going to talk politics now? All right. Okay, we'll go ahead. And then it's fine. Because we're interested in each other as people, even though we don't agree about some political things. And I wish we could find a way to help the people around us have that more of that kind of attitude, because I think it would help our ability to work together in this country quite a bit. And this is exactly the sort of thing the Gayatri is about. Didn't think I'd get back to the Gayatri, did you? There was a time at the ashram when, others will remember this, things were not going very well. People were being kind of nasty with each other and angry. And Swami Veda was seeing this. And one day he just said, okay, stop the program. Everybody go into silence for 3 days. I'm going to give you this prayer to recite. And every single time a critical thought about somebody else crosses your mind, you are to say this prayer and repeat the Gayatri mantra 11 times. Well, you can imagine what happened. Everybody was sitting around doing nothing but Gayatri japa for 3 days because the critical thoughts were so strong in people's minds. And it's a lovely little prayer. It's on the last 2 pages of your handout. It's a lovely English translation. He had us recite the prayer in Sanskrit, but the English is beautiful. Mother Gayatri, oh Gurudev. Now, those 2 things are the same. The Guru is Mother Gayatri. Guru is the mother of it all. Energy that the Guru flows from is the source of all the energy in the manifest universe. Grant me the purity of buddhi. May my mind become immaculate, quiet, peaceful, clear, and pleasant. Grant me the spiritual strength to ask for forgiveness with a sentiment of amity, friendliness. Oh, that alone is real. All this endeavor be accepted as my surrender and offering unto Brahman. Both aspects of this as a prayer that are important. This notion of forgiveness is something that those of us who have been raised in Protestant religious traditions do not understand. We have it all as an intellectual thing up here. On TV, there's a big shooting, and one of the victim's family the same night says, I forgive him. They're trying to be a good Christian, but they are glossing over all of the emotions that are involved in that loss. Haven't done their work. They have not gotten to the place where they can truly let go of what happened. And that's what's required in forgiveness. Forgiveness is a very important thing, and it's also not usually a very easy thing. Because for most people, there's a lot of grief and hurt, rage, all kinds of other emotions that are involved in what happened, particularly in something like a shooting. That you have to get to the bottom of it before you can look someone in the eye and say, I'm ready to let go of what you did. And that's what you're saying when you forgive someone, ready to let go. In other words, I'm ready to be at least neutral with you going forward, if not friendly. True forgiveness is an incredible experience. And I say that after 35 years of working in psychotherapy with a lot of people who have been abused in various ways. And for a lot of people, it's hard to imagine how, for example, somebody who's been sexually abused for years can come to forgive their abuser, but it can happen. I've seen it happen. And from where I sat as a therapist, it was always the goal. But not everybody could get there. It wasn't a requirement. I hoped to bring people as far as I could through the process, hopefully through the whole thing, but it didn't always work that way. Still, I think it's important to keep that goal. I'm just thinking of all of these stories coming forward in my mind of places where that happens. So this is the kind of thing that Swamiji was hoping for here. An experience of prayashchitta, the purification of the mind through the process of forgiveness. And Gayatri is something that can really help with that. He goes through in the first couple pages of the handout, he goes through the whole process of what is involved here. This is a transcription of a talk that he gave at that time in the Gurukulam. And, rather than sort of read through this, I'm going to just leave it to you to go through and just contemplate. Because each one of these little sutras here is an important one. My eye fell on number 11. Promote a spirit of prayashchitta, the spirit of apology. It is a self-purification as confession, atonement, and apology. It is related to the Pali word pratimoksha, release, related to moksha. Pratimoksha just means to facilitate liberation. The office of confession in Christianity was not a priestly office in the beginning. It wasn't something priests did. It's something the practitioners of Christianity did with each other. And I think that's a better way to think about it. Find, if you have something you need to purge from your heart, find a compassionate person and ask them to take your confession. You don't have to use that word. You don't want to. It's kind of make people who've been irritated by the church probably better to stay away from that word. The purpose of it is for you to be able to open your heart and to begin this process of working on all emotions that are involved in us when we experience misbehavior from others and when we misbehave ourselves. In the ancient Buddhist communities, every month they would get together and they would have a communal process of confession with each other, talk about the ways that they were falling short, and to obtain each other's forgiveness. So it was a way for them as a community to sort of keep on track with their spiritual sadhana. In the best relationships, this is such an important skill to have. In a primary relationship, I think it's one of the things that helps a couple stay together over the long term. Because of course, when you marry somebody, what you marry is an image that you have of that person, as Thich Nhat Hanh says. You don't marry the real person, you marry your image. And after a year or so of living with the person, then you start to see what the reality is and the ways in which it's different. It's always somewhat different. People would always call me up for couple therapy about 18 months along, 18 months to 2 years along. That's when the trouble starts to make itself really felt for a lot of couples. And a lot of times people were relieved when I told them, this is kind of a normal process. This is how it works. And what has to happen now is you need to sort of take a clear look at each other, at the reality of who each other is, and forgive the things that have happened that have been painful, and then be able to do some acceptance of each other. And I think that long-term acceptance in a couple relationship is such a big deal and such an important part. If I had known half the stuff about my partner Scott that I know now, if I'd known that in the beginning, we might not have gotten together. And he would certainly say the same about me. But we have learned to accept so much in each other that we both kind of sit back and wonder about that now. How did that ever happen? How did our hearts ever get big enough to do this? It's fantastic, and it's really good sadhana. Sometimes people would get married or have a child, and Swami Veda would say to them, "Oh, now you have a real guru." Somebody who teaches you moment to moment through your life. That's what these relationships are for. We're all in these relationships of one kind or another that help us to work out the karma that we've brought into this life, the mission that we have based on our previous behavior that gives us the circumstances in which we find ourselves and gives us the opportunity to create better circumstances for the future. So this attitude of forgiveness and apology is an important part of being able to open your heart to being able to do that. In number 12, he says, remember, you're not becoming angry because of this incident or situation. You're angry because of your past mental habit. And the habit has deepened to the point of wanting to release it and get it out. So now, knowing this, find other ways to ease the mind, such as learning to apologize for another person. What might be the limitation in the capacity of the other person that I was not sensitive to and overlooked and chose not to make an adjustment in my expectation? What pains has the other person suffered, not as judgment, but by way of compassion? Or as Thich Nhat Hanh would say in his beautiful little book on anger, where is the baby crying? That's the question. and somebody's angry with you, where's the baby crying in their life? Then, where's the baby crying in my life that I start to get angry and turn? Figure out what excuses you can provide for that person's behavior. And in the process of doing that, you become a more forgiving person, a more understanding person, a person that is open enough that people will want to talk to you about what's in their heart. Oh, please.
So the baby crying in your life, is that supposed to be like represent source of anger?
Yeah, where am I suffering? You know, one of my dearest friends in all the world is Ashutosh Sharma. Ashu and I used to teach teacher training workshops all over the place. In India and Italy and Hungary and South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, all over the place. For a while there, I was traveling so much. I was traveling 9 months of the year. And Ashu and I used to joke that we were more married to each other than we were to our spouses, which is pretty true. You know, we'd get into a seminar and Ashu would give a lecture and I'd be off in our room doing something else. And then I would come to do my lecture and I would pick up the exact place that he left off. He didn't have to say anything to me about it. I just knew. And he knew my mind and my heart that well. It's such a beautiful thing. In his early days, Ashu was a really angry person. He came to Swami Rama in 1992 and wanting to learn Hatha Yoga because he'd been a very sickly boy and nothing helped him. The doctors were absolutely failed at everything they tried. So somebody suggested he do some yoga and suddenly he got better. So he wanted to really learn yoga. So he came to Swami Rama. And Swami Rama said, I'll teach you yoga. Go see Swami Veda. Now, to a lot of people, Swami Veda doesn't look like much of a Hatha yogi. He doesn't sit there and do postures all the time, and he doesn't have a book with a lot of pictures in it. But he was a master of Hatha Yoga to a greater degree than anybody out in the world today. Anybody. And his definition of mastery was pretty formidable. To be a master of anything in yoga, you have to be able to enter into the full depth of any practice with no preparation and no precautions. Stay there for as long as you like, deriving the full benefit of the practice. And then you have to be able to transmit the effects of that practice to another person by the power of your own mind. That's what a master is. Not just somebody who knows a lot of stuff at all. So he goes to Swami Veda, the master of Hatha Yoga, and he starts working with the other assistants that Swamiji had in the ashram there. This is before the days that Swami Veda had his own ashram. And there was one of those guys that Ashutosh just hated. And whenever he was proposing a project, Ashutosh, he would put those two together. He did this kind of stuff all the time. He actually kind of liked to shake things up. Everybody observes that Swami Veda's organizations never ran smoothly. And people think it's about incompetence. No, it's not incompetence. It's emotional purification. It was very intentional. So Ashu would come back to Swami Veda and he would say, I'm so mad at that guy. Complain. Swamiji would look at him and say, Ashu, nobody can make you angry. Not possible. All they can do is hold up a mirror to the anger that is already there in your own mind. You deal with it. So you have to learn, where is that coming from in you? And some of you know Ashutosh in these later years. He's such a sweet person. You wouldn't think there was any anger in him. sadhana worked. And it was kind of bumpy. Yeah, there were bumpy times for sure. We got through it just fine. And we had such a beautiful time. And if I miss one thing being at home, and I really discovered that I like being at home, I have to say. But if I miss one thing about my traveling life, it's I miss such a sweet, loving.
Stoma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to?
Hi, this is Bill Tansey over in Arizona.
Oh, hi, Bill.
Hi. I asked Swami Veda once how many Gayatri I should do, so he said do as many as you want. So I did 1,000,000. It took 4.5 years. That's about 20 malas a day with a few exceptions. So I have a few comments about Gayatri, if you'd like to hear them.
Sure. Let's hear your experience.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is the more you relax, the faster a mantra goes.
Right.
Swami Veda taught me that. And the second thing is for a mantra to really be effective, you have to encase it. And that's the long practice that Swami Veda gives, which you're very familiar with. We've done that.
Not sure what you mean by the process of encasing the mantra.
You put well, actually, in Earth, Sky, and Heaven is an encasement. The mantra is taught saboteur. So the other 7 in the front and 7 in the back is kind of an encasement. Very important. After practice of a mala, you do Om Tat Sat Brahma Parna Stu, which means that you're offering the practice to all sentient beings who are in pain and misery.
Right.
If you're not doing this for a specific purpose for yourself, that's very important. And Swami Veda emphasized that. Finally, anything over 10 malas a day, you need a very controlled life. And you need personal instruction and guidance from someone who's done this practice. In my case, Pandit Rashbani was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
good.
Pretty much all I have to say.
You know, how much a person does each day really depends on the person and what their capacity is. And you have to judge that for yourself. And feel free to call on the person who initiated you. Or you can talk to me if you want. Or Marada, any other person who is an initiator can help you with it. The important thing is just to not be so intense with the practice that you start to give yourself unmanageable consequences. Because Gayatri can certainly do that sometimes. Thanks, Bill.
Stoma,
Yes.
this is Sylvia.
Hey, Sylvia.
Hey, Stoma. I had a question. That there are other Gayatris, correct? There's Ganesh Gayatri, Lakshmi Gayatri, there's a number of them. And I just wanted to know what, in fact, Swami Veda gave a number of people this Ganesh Gayatri over a period of time. What's the difference? What's the relationship? And is it the same drilling effect with these other Gayatris that the main Gayatri, and under what? Anyway, so that's my question.
Good question. There are special purpose Gayatris addressed to a number of different deities. Like each divinity has its own Gayatri mantra. So, for example, she mentioned the Ganapati Gayatri, the Ganesha Gayatri. And that mantra has some of the energy of Ganesha, who's a really fascinating deity. Ganesha is this deity who has a human body and an elephant head. Everything about Ganesha is paradoxical. So Ganesha is the one who guards the gateway to higher experience. in the mythological literature of the Puranas, he's the one who was guarding the bathroom where Parvati, Shiva's wife, was bathing. And Shiva came home. She had created Ganesha out of some stuff that was floating on the water of her bath. So she created this little boy to guard the door. So Shiva comes home and he sees this other man in his house guarding the private space of his wife. So what does he do? He chops the head of the kid off. Because Shiva had kind of a hot temper. So Parvati said, "What are you doing? That's my boy. You fix this right now. You go out and find a head to put back on that body." So he goes out, and the first head that he finds is the head of an elephant. So he puts the elephant back. That's what the mythology says. But the thing about Gayatri, or about Ganesha, is that, as I said, everything about him is paradoxical. He's thought of as the deity that removes obstacles, unless you hang on to your ego. If you hang on to your ego, he creates obstacles. He's called Ganapati because he is the pati, the lord of all the ganas, the ghosts. He's the lord of the demons. And he has all these spirits that run around him in that mythological literature. But this is the idea that it represents, that there's this paradoxical nature. So if you are working on reducing your ego, Ganesha will help to reduce the obstacles. Ganesha is also the deity of the lowest chakra, of Muladhara chakra in the Tantra system. What that means is that he is the lord of stillness and steadiness. And so he helps you to be physically still, in the sense that yogis are still. Yogis are not still because they're holding still. Because holding still requires effort. And effort is a stress response in your nervous system. You don't want to be holding still. You want to become stillness itself. Be still doesn't mean hold still. It means become stillness. In the same way, your mind needs to become stillness in order to settle on that point of concentration enough to go into samadhi, which is why Ganesha is the guardian of the gateway to higher experience. So that's a little bit about the Ganesha mantra. Another one that people do sometimes is the Gayatri mantra for Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the wife of Vishnu and is the principle of spiritual prosperity. And a lot of people think of Lakshmi as the money goddess. A lot of Indian people will do Lakshmi Gayatri to get rich. That is not the point. The point is to increase your spiritual prosperity so that you become a more generous person. Sometimes, along with that increase in spiritual prosperity, material prosperity can follow sometimes, but it isn't something that's necessarily. And sometimes you prosper so much spiritually that you end up actually not needing and renouncing material, which is a really good outcome. So there are all kinds of these special Gayatris for various purposes. And sometimes if you need to add a little bit of that energy, you might be guided to do a certain one of those practices. I, at one point, was when I'm sitting in meditation, sometimes I start davening. Some of you may know davening from Jewish tradition, and they're reciting prayers at the wall. They kind of rock back and forth. That's actually a Kundalini phenomenon. So the fact that it's a Kundalini phenomenon is cool, but it's still a disturbance to your meditation, and you need to be still. So Swami Veda gave me Ganesha Gayatri to do for a while. Yeah.
Should I speak into the speaker? Oh, just do that.
Just speak with a good projecting voice. Yeah.
Great. So the question is that these are all different mantras, but all called Gayatri. What does Gayatri mean?
comes from the root gai, which means to sing. It's the divine song. It's the song that this universe is. The universe is a song. It's all vibrations, all of it. You know, if you really study quantum physics, turns out quantum physics and Kashmir Shaivism are the same thing. Different language, different symbols, same deal. All vibration.
Is not the Bhagavad Gita also referred to as the song divine?
Yeah, well, it has the word Gita in it, which is from the same verb root.
Oh. Oh.
Is it a particular meter?
Right, Gayatri is a particular meter. In Sanskrit poetry, there are, I think, 36 different meters. And so, for example, in the formal religious practice of mantra sadhana, you repeat at the beginning of your practice, you repeat a sankalpa each time that includes many different aspects of the mantra, including its meter. And the meter of Gayatri is Gayatri. The most common meter in Sanskrit, the one, for example, that the Bhagavad Gita is written in, is called Anushtup. The so-called shloka is the other Sanskrit word for it. The shloka meter is Anushtup. There's Gayatri. My favorite meter is actually one called Shardula Vikridita. Shardula is a tiger. And this is the tiger. And it's bouncing. So it's kind of fun. It's a little bit of an obscure science, but
Which mantra would be utilizing that one?
oh God, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I think probably that's a complex enough meter that it's something you would only find in literary poetry. That's my guess about it. Yeah, Georgianne.
You talked earlier about the importance of pronunciation. A lot of mantra, and I know haven't had perfect pronunciation for all of them. And I like to think my intention is important.
It is.
Oh,
Guru is forgiving. Do your best. You do your best, it'll always fall short, and the guru will fill in the rest. That's why you need a guru. You cannot do it all yourself. You can never escape your own ego by yourself. It's not possible. So all this talk about we don't need guru, baloney. Utter baloney. Granted, certain people who call themselves gurus misbehave, and if somebody calls himself a guru, run. Go the other way. People used to call Swami Veda guru, and those of us who knew him can remember what he said, I am no guru, I have seen a guru. I am no master, I have seen a master. Now, he was a master. He was. He had lots of mastery. He had many, many siddhis. He had many miraculous powers that you never saw because he hid them really, really well. And you had to be with him a lot to begin to kind of see around the edges of everything. You could see some of this stuff happen. The fact that he could keep his body alive like he did, my God. The man had the most horrible possible heart disease for his whole life. He had terrible type 1 diabetes. His blood sugars would sometimes be up around 300, which would ordinarily put somebody in a coma, you know? But somehow, through his yogic ability, he managed to keep that body alive for 81 years. He should have died in his early 50s with that kind of diabetes and heart disease. So just that is a demonstration of his mastery. But the measure for him of mastery was Swami Rama. The measure of mastery for Swami Rama, Bengali Baba. The mastery for Bengali Baba, measure of mastery for Bengali Baba, the Tibetan Grand Master who nobody knows. So they pass it up the line. And if you try to nail them about something that they've done with their miraculous powers, they will always say, I don't do anything, my master does everything. Swami Rama said that all the time. And this is somebody who played with the laws of physics from back. First time I went to India, I met two people who had lunch with Swami Rama at two places across India at the same time. How did that happen? God knows. Just say, Swami Hari used to say, God knows. Sure. The folks here have requested reciting the mantra again a few times before we close. That's a great idea. Ready? Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Just stick with that for 2 minutes. Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Stoma. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Stoma.
Welcome. Anybody out there in internet land, if you want copies of these handouts, Phyllis has them at the meditation center. You could also email me at parkpsych, PARKPSYCH @yahoo.com. And I'd be happy to send you one. Good.
Thank you, Stoma.
Thank you, Swami.
मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वमाराध्यं हरिहरविरिञ्जादिभिरपि प्रणान्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृतपुण्यः प्रभवति अविद्यानामन्तस्तिमिरिमिहिरोद्दीपनकरी जडानां चैतन्यस्तबकमकरन्दश्रुतिश्रुति दरिद्राणां चिन्तामणिगुणनिका जन्मजलधौ निमग्नानां द्रष्टा मुरारिपुवराहस्य भवति सुधा सिन्धोर्मध्ये सुरवितपिबाति परिवृते मणिद्वीपे नीपो पवनवति चिन्तामणिगृहे शिवाकारे मञ्चे परमशिवपर्यङ्कनिलयां भजन्ति त्वां धान्य कतिचन चिदानन्दलहरीम् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः
Thank you.
Thank you.